My mother tried to leave 3 of my sister's 6 children with me. She walked into my apartment without knocking, sat down at my kitchen table, folded her hands together, and calmly said, "Sarah can't handle the kids anymore. The younger 3 are staying with you for a while." I honestly thought she was joking. I lived alone in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment. I worked 12-hour shifts, survived on coffee and deadlines, and barely had enough energy to take care of myself. And children? I never wanted them, not even my own. "They're not my kids," I said carefully. Mom looked horrified. "They're your family." Then came the guilt trip about how exhausted Sarah was, how Mom was too old to keep helping, how innocent the children were, and the worst part, they were innocent. I still said no, firmly. Then Mom started crying, real crying, shoulders shaking, voice trembling, and suddenly I felt like the cruelest person alive. That night I barely slept. I kept trying to convince myself not to get involved. But the next morning, exhausted and numb, I still found myself standing in Walmart buying macaroni, hot dogs, yogurt, juice boxes, and children's shampoo. Because deep down, I already knew they were coming. At noon, Mom arrived with them: Emma, Ethan, Lily. And the second I really looked at them, something inside me cracked. Emma's jeans were too short for her legs, and her sweater had holes near the elbows. Ethan's jacket couldn't zip over his stomach. Lily's shoes were tied together with broken laces. All 3 children were painfully thin, not naturally skinny, neglected skinny. And their eyes? That was the worst part. They looked nervous about everything, like kindness was temporary. Mom dropped their bags by the wall, kissed Lily quickly on the forehead, and left almost immediately. Suddenly, it was just me and 3 silent children standing in my apartment. That first dinner changed something inside me. Ethan stared at the mac and cheese like it was luxury food. "Can we really eat all this?" he asked quietly. Emma kept whispering, "Thank you," after every bite. Lily barely spoke at all. After dinner, I helped them shower. The water running off them was gray. Their clothes were beyond saving. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, doing math: rent, bills, gas, groceries. I barely had enough money left for myself. Now suddenly I had 3 children depending on me. The next morning, I opened Facebook Marketplace and started looking for used clothes: cheap jackets, boots, jeans, hair ties. We spent the whole day driving around town, picking things up from strangers. Emma got a pink winter coat and stared at herself in the mirror like she couldn't believe it belonged to her. Ethan got sneakers with lights in the soles and practically exploded with happiness. Lily got a tiny coat with bunny ears on the hood and refused to take it off. Then I took them to McDonald's, and watching them eat fries and ice cream like it was the greatest moment of their lives completely destroyed me. I went outside afterward and cried in the parking lot. That same night, Mom finally admitted the truth. Sarah was drinking again, badly. A few days later, I drove to her house. The place smelled like alcohol, cigarettes, and rot. Bottles everywhere, trash everywhere, dirty clothes piled on the floor. Sarah looked awful, swollen face, shaking hands, empty eyes. I finally snapped. "Your children are starving, Sarah." At first she got defensive, then suddenly she broke down crying, and for the first time in years she admitted the truth. "I don't know how to fix this anymore." So I gave her 2 choices. "You either get help now or your kids end up in foster care." That terrified her more than anything else. 3 days later, I drove my sister to rehab. The kids stayed with me after Sarah entered rehab. At first, they behaved like frightened little guests. Emma constantly tried cleaning the apartment to earn food. Ethan asked permission for everything. Lily followed me silently from room to room like she was afraid I'd disappear. But slowly, they started changing. Ethan became loud and energetic once he realized nobody was going to scream at him anymore. Emma started smiling, real smiles. Lily finally started sleeping peacefully through the night. And somewhere in the middle of all the chaos, my apartment stopped feeling crowded. It started feeling alive. There were crayons on the table, cartoons playing in the background, tiny socks everywhere, and somehow I stopped caring. For the first time in years, I stopped coming home to silence. Instead, I came home to running footsteps, messy drawings, questions shouted from another room, and tiny arms wrapped around my waist, yelling, "Aunt Claire!" And the terrifying thing was, I loved it completely. One evening, I walked into the kitchen and caught Emma washing dishes standing on a chair. "What are you doing?" I asked. She immediately looked terrified. "I just thought maybe I should help so you won't be mad we're eating your food." That sentence haunted me for days. Children should never think love has to be earned. Meanwhile, Ethan transformed into complete chaos. The second he realized nobody was going to hit him or scream at him anymore, all his energy exploded out at once. He ran everywhere, talked nonstop, asked 1,000 questions a day. "Aunt Claire, do sharks sleep? Aunt Claire, can astronauts sneeze in space? Aunt Claire, can I microwave marshmallows?" By the end of the second month, I was exhausted all the time, but I was laughing more too. Then there was Lily. Tiny little Lily attached herself to me almost immediately. At first, she barely spoke. Then one morning, she climbed onto the couch beside me while I worked on my laptop and whispered, "You smell nice." I nearly cried over that stupid little sentence. At night, she refused to sleep unless I read stories to her first. Sometimes she'd fall asleep holding onto my sleeve like she was scared I might disappear. 6 months later, Sarah came home from rehab sober. The kids were happy to see her, but careful too. Emma asked quietly, "You're not leaving again?" Sarah cried harder than I'd ever seen, but this time she stayed. She got a job at a grocery store, started therapy, went to support meetings, learned how to be a mother again one day at a time. It wasn't perfect. Some days she came home exhausted and irritable. Some days she cried because recovery felt impossible. But she stayed sober, and slowly the kids started trusting her again. Mom changed too. For the first time in my life, she stopped manipulating everyone and just became a grandmother. Cooking giant dinners, helping with homework, buying secondhand toys, knitting scarves nobody asked for. Eventually, we sold Mom's old apartment and Sarah's collapsing house and moved everyone closer together. Now the kids run between our apartments constantly. My fridge is permanently full of yogurt and juice boxes, and somehow, I don't mind at all. One rainy evening, almost a year after all this started, Lily handed me a drawing. It showed all of us together, Mom, Sarah, me, all 6 kids. Above us, she'd drawn a giant yellow sun, and underneath, in crooked little letters, she wrote, "Our family." I stared at that picture for a very long time. Because a year earlier, I thought freedom meant having nobody depend on me. I thought happiness meant silence, control, and being alone. Now I understood something completely different. Sometimes the people who completely destroy your carefully planned life are the same people who finally make it feel full.